coolest people, the best marketers on the planet, entrepreneurs. And we have a conversation at the end of the week and about what makes them successful, about what they're famous for, and of course to have a drink. And I'll tell you, if I ever needed a drink, this week would be the one. Okay, so
you say that every week, Robin. Come on,
yeah.
That's every week.
That's pretty much right. So as usual, if you want, guys, go to the comments section. Make sure you post your comments. Where are you in this great big world of ours? What are you drinking? That's what I want to know. And, use that same comments box, to ask questions too throughout as we're going through this. Make sure you find the buttons to subscribe and to our podcast, so that way you can get notified when we do more of these interviews. And today I'm really excited because I'm talking to Brian Kurtz, and Brian is we call him T-Rex. I don't know where you got that. You got that from yourself, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you where. Well, after you finish, I'll tell you where it came from if you're interested.
Okay, cool. Okay. So let me read this bio. And that is, Brian Kurtz has been a serial direct marketer for almost 40 years and never met a medium he didn't like. And what I mean medium, what we have to explain to some of you out there is medium is not like a psychic. It is like
I never met I have met mediums that I don't like.
A medium being like the way, like, how do you get your message to your marketplace? Email, Facebook, YouTube, SEO, direct mail, telemarketing. So that's what medium means in the world of direct marketing. And while he's had much success, he also must admit that trying to sell subscriptions and books on the back of ATM receipts and under yogurt lids was only a good idea at the time. All right. But hey, man, you can say you did it, right?
Exactly.
And he believes that marketing isn't everything, it's the only thing. So for nearly 40 years, he has followed a specific set of direct marketing principles that have helped build an iconic publishing company to $150 million at its height. And those same principles are currently helping him apply to all he's learned and done to everything that is state of the art in marketing today. And he is forever committed to teaching these timeless fundamentals to the next generation of great direct response marketers. And because you are the goat of marketing, I am having an espresso martini today, which is
all right.
New. Yeah. So, and what are you drinking? You're drinking what? Like,
I'm drinking Poland Spring on tap. So, I have a tap of Poland Spring in my house. So it's really great water. It's
fresh squoze. Nice. Okay. All right. Well, there you go. So, Mike, what are you drinking?
Just a little Chardonnay action. Going out for a steak dinner later, so we'll have plenty of red wine there.
Okay. All right. How come I wasn't invited? So, like, you're supposed to put like espresso beans on top there.
Yeah. Wow, look at that.
That is fancy.
That's styling.
Let me tell you something. I think this is going to be my new signature drink because I'm really good with margaritas, but I don't know. Just saying. Woo, that'll put some hair on your chest.
Set you up for the weekend right there.
Well, I got to work out after this. So, I got to have a little energy or something.
I don't work out till tomorrow morning. So I should probably be drinking heavily, but I'm not going to. So actually, I'll tell you where the T-Rex came from. So there was when I started my Titans marketing business after I left Boardroom, Jenny Thompson, who was a great marketer, she ran the health division at Agora. And she started coming up with themes for my business. I didn't even ask her. And she started coming up with themes, and she says, Brian, I think your business should be dinosaurs and cowboys. And I said, what do you mean by that? Well, you're the dinosaur, Brian. You're old school. Hopefully you're not extinct, but you're a dinosaur. and then the cowboys are the internet cowboys. The Lambo boys and all the guys, and the gals who are, strutting their stuff on the internet. And so I said, yeah, dinosaurs and cowboys, that's pretty good. And then she said, and your email should definitely be T-Rex. And so, I couldn't get T-Rex, but I got T-Rex Kurtz, which was good. I have T-Rex Cowboy 1 at Gmail. I have a bunch of them. But what I've done is I've used it actually in my marketing because it can be a derogatory thing. I mean, dinosaurs, I don't know if anybody knows this, but they're extinct. They're not around anymore.
Yeah, and people don't say, oh, you're a dinosaur, and they don't mean it as a compliment usually. Yeah.
Exactly. So I wanted to turn it into a compliment if possible. Mm-hmm. I love it when people call me an OG. I don't call myself an OG, but when someone calls me an OG, I think that's the best compliment.
Or the
Being an
GOAT, the
original
greatest all
gangster is
time.
like awesome.
Yeah.
What's that?
I mean, the GOAT, the greatest all time, you know?
Yeah, but I don't think I fit that. But I'm definitely an OG, and
Okay.
and I love being an OG. But I can't call myself an OG. I have to be called an OG. I love it
Yeah.
when people call me a mentor, not
Mhm.
because because I mean that's kind of this. I'm not riding off into the sunset yet, but I am at a stage in my life where I'm teaching what I've done and not doing a whole lot, which is fine because I've done a lot, and I don't have anything to prove. So I'm trying to, and I'm still learning. So I'm learning and teaching at the same time.
Mm.
And so working that into things about dinosaurs is not always easy, but it's fun, and it gives me an opportunity to be I can be, I don't have a problem being, I'll put myself down in the spirit of it, the advancement of marketing, put it that way.
No, well, I think you're way humble. I mean, like the other thing, guys, just to I've got his book Over Deliver, which is really good. The Advertising Solution, and Over Deliver really is a good one. I mean, I like them both. They're different. You know what I mean? Like the thing I think I like about the Advertising Solution is there's all these like really, when you talk about OGs of marketing,
Yes,
you've taken it and you've summarized it here. All the books I got behind me, like Ogilvy and
yeah. So basically, that was a Craig Simpson, who's a good friend of both of us.
Yeah.
Craig Simpson is a direct mail savant. I mean, I was a direct mail guy too in the '80s, but Craig's business is still teaching direct mail, and I know that you're a bit of an OG yourself when it comes to direct mail, Robin.
100%.
And you're no slouch. So
yeah, 100%.
Believe in direct mail, and so. Craig approached me and he said, I've done all the research on these 6 legends of mostly direct mail, but, basically old school direct marketing. So it's David Ogilvy, Claude Hopkins, John Caples, Robert Collier, Gary Halbert, and Gene Schwartz. Those are the 6 that we profiled. So he did the heavy lifting. And what I did is I went through the works of all 6 of them, and we it's almost like I don't want to say it's a Reader's Digest version.
Yeah, it's like a
6,
summary.
but we
best
summarized
of.
them and we put them in bullets. I mean, I structured the whole idea of taking, like Robert Collier. Robert Collier wrote a book called The Letter Book, which is a book about writing sales letters. I mean, it is a snooze. It's like 560 pages. Yeah.
I mean, you can see I've read it. I mean, like I don't think it's a snooze. I'm going to tell everybody. When was Robert Collier born? When did he write this book?
He was like Hopkins was in the 1920s. Collier was like in the 40s, maybe.
Yeah, April 1885 to 1950 was when he.
Yeah, so he was in his prime, like in the 30s. Him and Hopkins are definitely the old school guys, but I'll tell you, the Collier book.
There you go.
When I say it's a snooze, it's just. It begs to be summarized and bullet pointed,
Well, but what I'm saying is
Advertising Solution.
But I'll tell you, there's letters he has in that book that you could pull out and write today in an email on a website, and it would still work. And that's what I think people like. You're saying about direct mail, and they're like that was the media that they had. I mean, there wasn't email and social media and all these other things. And I think the problem, and I know you agree with me on this, the problem is people think of marketing in terms of media. So, what is marketing? Well, it's direct mail, it's postcards, it's websites, it's landing pages, it's internet marketing, it's these things. And what they don't understand is the fundamentals of who is your customer, what are their hot buttons, what are their fears, what is their anxiety, and then how do you match up what you're selling in a manner that will align with something that an anxiety, a fear, a need, or whatever. And
I mean, that one of the legends in the Advertising Solution is Gene Schwartz, who was actually a mentor of mine. He wrote for us when I was at Boardroom, just one of my heroes. And so he wrote a book called Breakthrough Advertising, which is probably
it's another one right there. I got.
It's an amazing book. I definitely gave you that.
Yeah, this one you get. I think I have 2 copies of this. Breakthrough Advertising.
I definitely gave you that. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing book because what Gene identified, he always said that, I think, and Gene was a copywriter by trade, although you wouldn't know it after he died and read his obituary. His obituary talked about, it's like Gene Schwartz, art collector, dies. And there's one paragraph like this, this big, on his copywriting and marketing prowess. And the rest of it is him as an art collector. But they're related in a way because Gene felt that, and this is what Dan Kennedy talks about when he says marketing by walking around or copywriting by walking around. Gene walked the earth to find ideas, to see what people were thinking about. His favorite magazine was the National Enquirer. He wanted to know what made people tick. Exactly what you said, Robin, that, it's all about what's in the marketplace. And he has a line in Breakthrough Advertising that says, the copywriter doesn't create desire. The desire is already in the marketplace, and it's the copywriter's job to find it and then hone it so that it meets up with what the expectation is of the prospect, customer, whatever, which is what you basically said.
Yeah.
Gene says it in more textbook form, but he says it in the same way. And interesting when you say about ads, I'm publishing a new book called it's called Breakthrough Advertising Mastery. It's at the printer right now. And we just did a pre-sale for it. And what it is, it's taking breakthrough advertising, which is about a 250-page book. It's just packed. I mean, all about, looking at the levels of sophistication of your audience, looking at the levels of awareness of your audience and writing to those things.
Right.
Like the idea, anybody who's doing online marketing today that does one-size-fits-all email or one-size-fits-all marketing is just missing opportunity after opportunity because it's so inexpensive and it's doable to write to different segments, different pockets of your audience with completely different messages that are more in tune with where
relevant,
they are.
Relevant to them.
In the process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so this breakthrough advertising mastery, what we did was this, I mean, I sit in my office, I sit in my basement all day and stuff just comes to me. And my wife she locks me down here, so I'm stuck here anyway. So, but I get an email from a guy from Brazil, a young copywriter, and he says he's been studying Gene Schwartz and breakthrough advertising, and he's assembled every ad that's mentioned in breakthrough advertising. It's like 300 ads from the 1950s and 60s, like these.
Oh man, I'd pay money for that.
Cigarettes ads and
yeah,
ads for girdles and all this shit.
Yeah.
And so we came up with this idea that, and again, I'm feeding on what you said, Robin, about, looking at old ads to get new ideas. But, and these aren't direct response ads. There's no toll-free number. The toll-free number wasn't invented until 1967. So there's no website. The internet wasn't around. There are some toll numbers and there are coupons, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And so we assembled all of these ads. And so that's the first half of the book are worksheets that Chris Mason, who's my partner at Titans, we assembled based on breakthrough advertising, like worksheets that you could work through in your business to kind of basically take the concepts and apply them to your business. The second half of the book, we decided to do it in full color. So we did these ads, 300 of them in full color, so people can see. And it's not for nostalgia. I was talking about this on my mastermind call the other day. And I said, I'm not nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. I'm nostalgia for lessons. Mm-hmm. And, I never want to be accused of talking about the good old days and everything was better back then. That's not me. Mm-hmm. But I will say, as you said, Robin, it's the fundamental, it's the bedrock principles. I mean, Perry Marshall talks about this. Dan Kennedy talks about this. You talk about
I talk about it. Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've all learned from the same people and now we teach that way. So, because we're not going to break them. There's no mold to break. There's just one mold. Now, all of the new media works into it. I mean, it all fits in. I mean, when I was growing up, when I was young, when I was growing up, when I was a boy growing up and I
when you're a baby
school,
T-Rex.
Yeah, now I was walking, with my tiny hands as T-Rex, walking up a hill in the snow, 12 miles to school. I realized that what I was learning was going to be for a lifetime. And the thing is that to not recognize that all of the new, like most of the people I grew up with, in the direct mail days of the 1980s and 90s. I got into the business in 1981. And so I when I got into the business, it was, it was direct mail or bust, basically.
Mhm.
And everybody was just so obsessed with making sure that the message was right. I mean, you were paying postage and printing,
Yeah.
so you couldn't screw around. Chapter 3 of Over Deliver is a chapter that says why paying postage made me a better marketer.
Exactly.
The discipline that you had to have when you're paying, the kind of money that we paid for postage and printing. Why shouldn't that same discipline be with email, even though email is cheap? I don't get that.
No,
I don't
you're
get
right.
that.
No, and I think the problem we run in today is because there's so many different types of media, email, Google pay-per-click, LinkedIn, they got 12. I mean, and you can't just say LinkedIn, because you can talk about LinkedIn. There's organic posts, there's newsletters, there's groups, there's in-mail, there's all these things, right? And everybody I think there's so many now, internet marketers are like the new work from home in your underwear group, where they're kind of, hey, I'm going to help you get more leads. I'm going to help you get more customers. And we're going to do fill in the blank, whatever it is. Right. And what's missing from all of it is the strategy of, like you said, Gene Schwartz said, the need's already there, the desire, the want, the need, right? That's already, we can't create it. All we can do is, as marketers, is stimulate it, poke it, to kind of bring it, bubble it to the top of awareness. And we can build what we do as marketers, whether we do it in an email or a webinar or a YouTube video or a direct mail piece. We bridge that gap between their need, their want, their desire, and the product that we're selling, right? Because you take a product like, you take a basic human need, which is to avoid loss, like fear and avoid loss. Well, think of all the products you could sell. Like that's and maybe I don't fear, maybe there's certain things I don't fear, like, a plane flying into my house, right? Like that's not a big fear, but, I worry about my children. I worry about my dog. I worry about my finances. I worry about my business. I worry. And there's all kinds of products that could be sold. Insurance products, IT services could be, being selling against that. So as marketers, what I think is so many people get so hung up on the media, of what it is, and they completely ignore and lack the copywriting, the bridge of that, here's the human being we're selling to with the need, and here's the type of person and what we're offering.
Yeah, it's not the media. It's, as you said before, it's still the audience. The audience is important, and that's part of media. But in Over Deliver, I talk about what was once the 40-40-20 rule, which says that a success of a marketing campaign depends 40% on the list, 40% on the offer, and 20% on the creative or the messaging. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not that, and I picked that apart in my book, because it's not exact numbers, and we're not trying to that's not the point. The point is that it's a three-legged stool is what the point is. And you were getting at that. So it's a three-legged stool. So you must have all those three things, list, offer, and messaging, all working together in a unified whole. Now, I will say I turned it into the 41-39-20 rule, because 41%, I believe, is the list, the market. What, as you said, the audience, what's out there in the marketplace that they want and what they desire. Then you come up with a killer offer. And then the creative, which is only 20%, you'd say, well, on your formula, Brian, 20% is half as important as the offer or the list. And frankly, it's only the least important until it's not. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is, once you have your list dialed in and your audience, your audience, you have a really good offer, then the creative becomes the most important, because now you have to dial that in with the list and the offer. And when Gene Schwartz wrote for me, even at Boardroom, I used to go to him and say, the list is, I was a list guy. That's what I did. So I did all the list segmentation. I did all of that. Mm-hmm. So he was writing, I'm not saying he could write anything and make some money, but that's what happens in online marketing. Because you're doing an affiliate mailing, for example, you could, and someone is endorsing you, and you're right, and you're doing something online, you could have the shittiest creative and you'll still make some money. But if you if you go a step beyond and get A+ copy, and from an A+ copywriter even, and you spend money on the creative, now you're going to take it to all new heights. Whereas the opposite's not true. If you have a list that's totally unrelated to what you're selling, and there's nobody on the list that would even be interested, you could write copy that's the best of all time. You get the best copywriter, and you'll make 0 sales. So that's why I made it the 41-39-20 rule, because I really feel that the audience comes first.
The who,
It's always about the audience. It's always about who you're marketing to.
exactly right.
But all three things, it's a 3-legged stool.
Mhm.
You want all three working for maximum effectiveness. Always.
Yeah. Well, like Kennedy always talked about market message and media, and I've actually taken it one more, market message, media, and math, because I also think that a lot of people, they don't have correct expectations on I see this mostly small business owners who really aren't.
Yeah, you do a Facebook ad, I got to make money right away on it.
Or they send out 25 postcards and to a cold list they've never talked to before. Right. And they go, why didn't it work? And it's, so I think there's also that, but, we kind of jumped into things quick, but I want you to talk a little bit about your background in Boardroom, because I think in order for people to understand the level of sophistication and understanding you have of direct response, they kind of have to understand that story. So talk about Boardroom a little bit.
Yeah. So Boardroom was a really simple business. We sold newsletters and books, basically. And I say newsletters, not magazines, newsletters, which I know you and I have had a lot of conversations about newsletters and your done for you newsletter business and all the things you do for your audience. And so, and newsletters it's a tough business if you want to get paid for newsletters, because there's no advertising. That's the difference between a newsletter and a magazine, basically.
You're not selling advertising in the newsletter, so you have to make money on them actually subscribing.
Exactly.
Which is just, I want to make sure people understand that distinction, because magazine, I have a magazine now, MSP Success Magazine, and we sell ads. It's a free publication. The way we make money is we pimp all of you out when you subscribe, because we don't sell your names, but we sell the advertising to it. Or you're
selling the audience.
Yeah.
So Boardroom had these newsletters, Boardroom Reports. Bottom Line Personal was our big newsletter. It was a big consumer newsletter. Got up to 1 million subscribers. Paid. This is people who are paying for a paper newsletter subscriber. And again, $39 a year. In fact, I did a session once with a few of my favorite copywriters who work for me at Boardroom, and one of them named the panel. It's like Boardroom, $39, making $1 billion, $39 at a time. Like, I didn't know from ascension models, meaning like going from 39 to 100 to 1,500 to 25,000.
Have the gold plus.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned that, and I that's my business now, which is great. I love it. I love $25,000 masterminds. You don't have to do a lot of work and you make a lot more money. The margins are better. Imagine selling, and I guess this is where I cut my teeth, is that we were selling $1 billion worth of business over my career at Boardroom, $39 at a time, $39 subscription, $39 book on top of the subscription, another book, another subscription. And that is a painfully hard business. We could have made it a lot easier. It's a regret of mine at Boardroom, but I didn't know, but we still ended up being an iconic publisher who was known for our direct marketing prowess. We only hired the best copywriters. I mean, and I'm not, as somebody once said, I thought it was John Wayne, but I think it's Dizzy Dean, the pitcher. It's like, it's not bragging if you did it. So I'm not bragging here, but this is what I did. I worked because I was working in this environment of just, top direct marketing, modeling, regression modeling, which is a way to model your list. I mean, it's very sophisticated, and working with the best copywriters. In my career from 1981 to the present, any great copywriter who was alive in that period, just about, I worked with. Not bragging, I did it. So what does that mean to me? Well, it doesn't make me a good copywriter, but having learned how these guys do it and understanding the relationship between list segmentation and copy, and also what made them tick. I mean, I came up with I'm not a psychologist, but I came up with like 7 elements of every, like what every great copywriter that I've ever worked with, what was in their makeup, like what were the characteristics that were present in all of them in spades.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of stuff, I think, set me up for, having a career that I was always on an inquiry, basically. I was always thinking like, what's next? And the people who I grew up with in that period when I was starting out at Boardroom, and the people in the direct mail industry at the time, when the internet started getting popular and email, I predicted it would catch on. So I was like, I was like Nostradamus. I still think it's going to catch on too. But,
well, like one thing before we get too far off topic, though, one of the things I do want to talk to you about is copywriters, because a frustration I have is, for example, I work with small business owners, and it's not their fault. They don't know what great copy is. They don't understand great copywriting. They don't know what they should pay. I mean, they think they go on Fiverr, and, somebody will, hey, I'll write your brochure for $5 or or whatever. So talk about when you say, like, I know what you mean when you say a great copywriter, right? So if you're explaining this to a layman who like doesn't even know what copywriters are, like, explain that to the audience, please.
Yeah, I mean, you have to start with the premise that copywriting is not a commodity. So you can't just, and I still get letters, I get emails from people who are looking for a copywriter, and they have a business. Like, they have a business, they know they need to get some copy to either, sell the car wash business, or sell the HVAC business, or sell the IT business. And they write to me and they go, Brian, do you know a good copywriter? That is like the wrong question. I mean, you don't hire, I think you want to get a good plumber when you have a leak in your house, but copywriting is an incredible talent. I mean, to be able to get people to reach into their wallet and pay you is magical to me. When I started seeing,
let me kind of like explain something. So copywriting from the standpoint of, like, you got a website. All right. And, you go to a web designer, and the web designer says, okay, well, give me the copy for the site. And you go, well, shoot, I thought you were going to do it. Like, this is what'll happen. Like, they'll think the web designer,
it's a commodity. They think I'm going to do like pretty stuff on my site, and we'll just throw some copy up there.
Right.
Big mistake.
And well, what I'm saying is they don't think about the communication. So a copywriter, we're not just talking about websites. It could be in an email. It's a sales letter. It's what you put in an ad in a brochure, like in a magazine. A
video sales letter.
It could be the script. I mean, great copywriting. Right. It could be the script of a telemarketer.
Radio spot.
A radio spot. It could be the infomercials that you watch on TV. There's a copywriter who is scripting all of this out. And people don't understand the importance of that communication. They think, well, it just explain what they think. They want someone who can just write well and explain what it is they're doing. And a copywriter is someone who can write in a way that hits on emotional hot buttons. I'll give you an example, and then I'll let you expand on this. Like, I have a letter, we call it the bad date letter, right? And this is a 4-page sales letter, old school snail mail, right? And my clients mail it out. They follow up by phone and email, whatever, right? So there's follow up. It's not just mail, but they mail it. And it says something to the effect of, is your current IT company treating you like a bad date, like not returning your calls, not answering your requests, letting problems tick over again and again, repeat, are you just frustrated, right? So the thing is, that letter has sold, I know for one client alone, sold $6 million in IT services, 6 million, just one client. I've had other clients tell me, like, we got this thing, we call it the aspirin. It's like a lumpy mailer. It's an aspirin campaign. So I just had a client mail out like 650 of these to a relatively cold list. Not like it was clean, but it wasn't like an unconverted lead list. It was like a list that they had rented, not customers, and got 13 appointments of people looking to hire them for IT services and support. And we're talking about like a sale that could be anywhere from $30,000 a year to $100,000 a year.
Right. And then subsequent years too. You have to think about year 2 and 3.
And referrals and all the, and the thing is too, here's the thing I want to get to. That letter, they're selling what's called managed services. That letter never mentions the word managed services in it once. Like the product that's actually being sold is not really even talked about in the entire letter.
I'll bet it's all about transformation of their business. It's all about, basically.
Yeah. Are you frustrated? Here's why you're frustrated here, getting them to go, that's right. The Chris Voss, they read it and they go, that's right. And here's who we are and building trust. And hey, here's the offer. We want to offer you 2 free hours of support, or sometimes we do an assessment or whatever, the offer. Right. And here's directly how you respond. And if you don't want to book an assessment or an appointment, here's a free report you can download, so it's classic, you know what I mean? But the point I want to make is, that letter doesn't even mention the product. It's not like, so when you want, that's what you want in a copywriter, right? You want somebody who knows how to write a communication that is going to get your ideal prospect to raise their hand and want to talk to you so you can sell the product. Right. And so, when you're talking about world-class copywriters, like what do you pay them? Like what, how do they work and what do you pay a top-notch copywriter?
I can talk about, back in the day when we were hiring the best of the best to do direct mail, they were the big hired guns, because not everybody, and we were doing, 32-page magalogs, which are 32-page promotions. That was like a 32-page sales letter. I mean, to have to write that much copy, you can't be, it doesn't have to be, the fact that it was long wasn't the reason why it was good, but it wasn't boring, I'll tell you that. Right. And so it was, it tells stories. It's, you need a copywriter who can tell a story about what the product does. And they also want to know who they're talking to. If it's a cold audience, someone who doesn't know the person who's selling, you got to do a lot more explanation. If it's to a house file, to someone who's already a customer, completely different messaging. And if you're interviewing a copywriter, and they don't talk about that different. That's a basic premise of every piece of copy. Are you writing to existing customers or new customers? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm being totally basic here to prove a point that a lot of writers don't think like that. A lot of writers come in and say, I'll do everything for you. I'll do an email series. I'll do a postcard. I'll do a display ad for you. Mm-hmm. Anybody who's promising all of that is probably not good at any of it. And so specialization is also key. I mean, I have somebody in one of my mastermind groups who's becoming an expert in writing copy for Facebook ads. Now, Facebook ads are very different than a 12-page sales letter in direct mail. But there is a talent that you need to do that. And it's not one size fits all copywriting. So, you need a copywriter when you're interviewing a copywriter or someone who's going to write for you or write what you want it. They need to be a great interviewer of you, the entrepreneur.
Well, and I think it's also, they also have to be interviewing your customers. Because see, another thing I think.
Right, focus groups.
No, well, focus groups and one-on-one. Like, so back, I still do this today. I did a lot more when I was starting my company and building what I call the toolkit and the campaigns. If Brian, if you were an IT company, I'd say, okay, Brian, I want you to line up a conversation with 12 to 15 of your customers. I'm going to have a one-on-one conversation with them. I'm going to record it. I'm going to have it transcribed. I'm going to share that with you. But then what I would do is take the transcription with highlights. After interviewing 12, 15 people, there were common phrases, there was common frustrations.
Right. And then you throw their language back at them. I mean,
yeah. But what I'm saying, so what like I know you had shared with me, I believe it was you shared with me. Really top copywriters make over $1 million a year.
Yeah. Is
that true?
Yes, it is true. They get royalties, they get a percentage of sales. Mm-hmm. But to get to that point takes a long time.
Well, that's the top. I'm talking about the top. Let me ask you. Okay. I was going to say, I want to get an idea because I'm this is very selfish of me because I'm trying to for example, if I were to give somebody that letter, the aspirin campaign, and there's emails and there's phone calls and there's scripts and there's all this stuff around this package. So in direct marketing, we call that a package, right? It's all this stuff, right? What would you say a good, not like you're not the throwaway Fiverr cheap bastards that, they'll put something, but like a really decent copywriter, what would someone expect to pay for that service to put something like that together?
Yeah. Putting together a full package, I'll translate it to now, because now you've got remember, you already said it. Advertising opportunities are now infinite. Back in the days of direct mail, it was very finite. It was direct mail, it was print ads, it wasn't that much, radio, TV. Now they're infinite. You got so many different mediums. So it's a lot different. But I'd say for a basic like sales letter package and then all the ancilleries should be at least $20,000. I mean, maybe 15,000 if they're starting out and they're not as proficient. Just for a comparison, when we went out with these magalogs, these 24-page magalogs that had to be developed and designed, we were paying $25,000 to $30,000 plus a royalty on every piece mailed. So it didn't stop at the $30,000, and that's how, if it became a control, meaning the bet it won against whatever it was going up against, you could definitely make $1 million on one package. Now, most copywriters of that age, in that time, would kind of look at a new package and they'd say, I want to, and they had to divide their time because they were the best of the best. So they had to decide they weren't going to make them, they had to choose very carefully which client had the best shot at them getting a winner. So they went to the clients that did their list work, that did their, they help with the offers, they help with everything. So those guys generally would come to me and say, I'm looking to make at least $100,000 on this package because I have another client who I think I can make $100,000 on, and it's opportunity costs for them. That's at the top of the game. They have to make decisions about, I'm not going to take 50,000 when I can get 100.
Sure.
Now, but it's relative. It's relative to every level of copywriting, down to the beginner who has to decide whether it's a $15,000 versus a $5,000. But that would be the range. And I remember $100,000 was kind of a threshold for one package. And that was not on the initial mailing or the initial whatever they did, because it had to do with the ancillary things. It had to do with getting, and also what you need to also find in a copywriter is someone who's really hungry. And by hungry, I mean, if they write something for you, they don't just walk away. They want to keep the control. They want to keep getting money from you. So it's in their best interest and your best interest to write another version of it at no additional charge, because they're already getting a royalty. They're already getting paid on the residuals, as it were. And now they're going to write something that's going to beat that and stay in there, and no one else is going to beat them. Gary Bensavenga, who's one of the best copywriters of all time, he used to write a package, and the day he got the control was the day he started writing something to beat himself. Because he said, Brian, don't get anybody else to beat me. I'm going to beat myself. So he would keep the control and keep all the revenue if he got something that better, as opposed to me just shopping around for the next date copywriter and find another copywriter to just write a better package. That's a game that I didn't want to play. I wanted to play the game of not just loyalty, but let them be a partner in the business, so that they had a financial interest, and then they got more involved. They went a mile deep in the product. Then they got even better at it. So they were the best candidate to write, because they were sitting in on customer service calls. They were finding out all the things that they didn't find out when they wrote their first package. Then they would go to the second package and they had more information. That was better than going to a new writer who was good, another great writer. But then why did I stay with the original to beat themselves? So that's a concept, the idea of finding writers that are that hungry, that would want to beat themselves,
right,
as opposed to getting beat by another writer.
Yeah.
And that's indicative of like the best writers. It's like every great writer that I've ever worked with was someone who, and they weren't looking to get another fee, because the fee was not where they made the money. They make the big bucks, the $500,000 to $1 million on the royalties, on the percentage of sales, and they keep the control. So then they are so valuable to me as the marketer that I can't let them go. And so it becomes a really symbiotic relationship, and it's not transactional all the time. And when you can get to that point with anything, I think with any vendor, if you get to that point, that's when business is fun. That's when business makes sense to me. And in copywriting, it's no different.
Right.
But you have to finding those people are hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
So, not everybody has that hunger. everybody wants to write something, get paid, and move on to the next.
Yeah,
And
I mean, but it's just like anything. It's it's the 1%, 4%, 15, 80.
right.
There's 80% of the people writing, calling themselves marketers, copywriters out there. They're just clueless, shoeless, walking around, they don't know what the hell they're doing. Right. And unfortunately, the majority of buyers out there, they're not going to pay somebody, for the most part, they're not going to pay someone $100,000 for a letter, when it could be argued that if they produce a marketing package and it generates, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in sales, $1 million in sales, like $100,000 is like, I mean, why wouldn't you spend that? Right. They're coming up with that.
I'll give you an example that is it's a real example. It happened at Boardroom, where I was sitting with Marty, who's the founder of the company. We were going over the financials, and we're in his office, and the CFO came in and said to us, Brian, Marty, do you believe that this check here, I'm sending a check out for $660,000 to one of our copywriters. That's more money than you get, Marty. That's the more salary it's more than you're getting, Brian. It's like, it was beyond our salary. And Marty, I could tell wanted to fire her on the spot, but he basically said, well, if we're paying him $600,000, do you know how much we made on that package over the last 6 months? And that is an abundance thinking that doesn't take place. Now, again, it's not that you have to pay $600,000 to get the best package. That's not what I'm saying. It's all relative. Mm-hmm. But when you don't want to pay to play, and you don't want to, there are a lot of clients that were dealing with the same copywriters who came in, and when that check came out for $600,000, they were figuring out ways to pay them less, whereas Marty and I were figuring out ways to pay them more. Mm-hmm. That's an abundance mindset that I think can trickle down into any size business, no matter what you're paying for, no matter what you're doing. And I'm not saying it has to be big bucks, but it has to be a philosophy of that. If you have somebody that is so good at what they're doing, that they're making you so much money, don't look for ways to cut their income. Look for ways to increase their income. Yeah. And you work together with them on that. And it's such a simple concept, but most companies, when they see the big check that they have to pay as a windfall for the copywriter or the vendor, as opposed to it's an ongoing relationship. And if it's a windfall, they say, you got your windfall, we're not paying you anymore. Like, there are people that would get a package from a copywriter, competitors of mine. And once they started making a lot of money, there was no sunset on the contract with the copywriter. So they created an artificial sunset. They just said, you made too much money on this package, we're not paying you anymore. Yeah. Not based on a spreadsheet, not based on the real dollars that they made for them. So, I had some very creative ways to deal with that. What we did is that we would have, like, if they did a package for us, they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars over time. And then the package, I didn't get another package to beat it. They didn't get a package to beat it. And the response was waning. We just reduced the royalty a little bit to help the profit margin for us, so we could keep it the control. But they have to work with you on that. Mm-hmm. So we're not looking to pay them less. We're looking to pay them appropriately for where the package or the value is in that package. I don't know if I'm getting too much in the weeds here, but I think conceptually everybody can get this concept, which is, if you have somebody that you're working with that's not somebody that's in a transactional relationship with you, no matter how creative they are, no matter how disciplined they are and how they get paid, there's a lot of ways to fluctuate the payments and to be able to create a win-win, that where otherwise you're going to get into a situation that one of the two parties is just going to get pissed off and leave the relationship. Mm-hmm. And that's not good for either party if both parties have had success. Yeah. So I hope I explained that.
No, it's great. No, and
Yeah.
I would say, Mike, in a minute, I'm going to ask if there's any questions. Poor Mike, he has to sit here and just listen to two people who love to talk, and tolerate us. So in a minute, I want to just prepare him, see if there's any questions or whatever. But, I think the overarching, so I wanted to get that out about copywriting. And again, I said selfishly, because I have this program, it's the toolkit. And what's the toolkit? It's a whole library of sales letters, postcards, blog posts, emails, telemarketing scripts, all the things. And, when we sell the toolkit, we sell like the basic model, right? For like $297 or $397, depending on how long a subscription a month. And people like, oh my God, it's too much money, oh my God, it's too much. And it's just like, I was on
Actually,
stage. Yeah.
What you're selling though, think about it. You're selling that toolkit to IT companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
All over the country, all over the world.
Yeah.
And so if the beauty of it, it's like when Joe Polish was selling his carpet cleaning businesses. If you have a sales letter that's a winning sales letter, I'm assuming you can do this. I'll make an assumption that you're
there's multiple of them in there. Yeah, it's not just one. That's what I'm saying. There's tons
of them, right?
Yeah, tons.
So
you
have an IT company in Des Moines, Iowa, and an IT company in Burlington, Vermont. They can use the same sales letter because it's regional. They're selling in an area, and you've got the goods. It's like they don't even have to like adjust for like basically. You always say you have to steal smart. You can't just steal. In this case, you kind of can steal because it's a swipe file that is so valuable. It's tested because it worked, because you know it worked, and you don't have to worry about because you get the unfair advantage because your competition is not in your town or not in your general geographical area.
Well, they do. So like the lower, so they do get like, we don't do geographic exclusivity, but the point is there's so many different campaigns.
Exactly.
The chances of you sending the exact same letter at the exact same time to the exact same, it just, not that it never, I won't ever say never happens. Holy shit. There are all kinds of stuff that we never thought would happen, like COVID happened, right? But
right.
But but the point I just want to make
value but I was going back to the $397 for that. So one of the things they use ends up stepping on someone's toes. So throw that one out and do another one. You're getting this toolkit that's unbelievable. So that's the scarcity thinking in terms of creative being a commodity.
Well, and again, I want to just I think
tested.
that's the thing. I think small business, if we want to just even go higher, it's this generosity gene, if you will. Like, I'll use and Jack Welch talked about this for managers. He said all successful managers in business had a generosity gene, meaning they were happy that the people working for them got promoted or bonuses and stuff like that. And I think it's most small business owners are very scarcity minded. It's always like they don't look at value.
They're protecting their turf,
Well, they sit on their wallet. And so, they're parked on their wallet and they're trying to grow a business, but they're doing it with, they don't want to invest. It's like, here's another example that many of the people, like I have people coming to me saying, I want to hire a salesperson, but I want them to be commission only. And I'm saying, well, what's the opportunity? And it's like, when you talk to them, they're a small business. They have no marketing. So there's no inbound leads. They're probably going to implode if a good salesperson got in there and started closing deals and bringing those deals in. They'd probably say, hey, slow down, brush fire. We can't take business. Right. So I'm like, what good salesperson is going to sign up for that? It's like, you got to understand there's other opportunities for them. They can go somewhere else where they're getting a salary and benefits, and there's marketing.
The analogy to the copywriter who has a choice of clients that one's going to pay them and one isn't.
Right. And it's just a matter of, I think most people, small business owners, and even some big businesses, they don't put a value on really strategic marketing. Like it's almost like marketing is just like, okay, so there's a formula. We're supposed to spend 10% or 5% or whatever, some percentage of revenue on marketing. That's the budget. That's what we're going to spend. And we democratize the spending across. We're going to wrap the van. We're going to buy, pens with our logo on it. We're going to, whatever the hell they're spending. It's just like they don't look at marketing the way I think you and I look at marketing, which
Well,
is
in my bio,
yeah,
I had that line and it sounded silly. I said, marketing isn't everything. It's the only thing.
right.
But it really is. Even if you're like the most environmentally friendly, woo-woo business, whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. People aren't going to just flock to you without marketing. So,
Mhm.
I mean, you and I, we could talk about that forever. We can
Right.
preach it from the mountaintops. I mean, that's what we do. It's our whole life, basically.
Yeah.
But by saying it that way, by saying marketing isn't everything, it's the only thing, it gets in fact, in Over Deliver, in the introduction, I talk about 9 things that every entrepreneur needs to know about marketing, even if you're not doing the marketing, even if you're not interested in marketing.
Mhm.
And I thought that was a great way to start the book, because I didn't think a lot of people would buy the book who are not into marketing or not into that type of thing. But
Yeah.
those 9 things are so important because they encompass, like, even if you're not going to be involved, you have to be interested in what's going on. It's like,
Yeah.
just to give it away to someone who you don't trust, or you don't know what their value is, and say, okay, do the marketing and report back to me. No, it's
Well, it's because, here's the thing. They think marketing is a website and postcards. That's why, and they don't want to be involved in that. But I don't
you
look
and
at
I take it to a step further. It's direct response marketing, which means it has to have an ROI. It's got to have response and be measured.
Let's take it even a step further. Okay. So I'm trying to help my clients sell a service, right? And
Right.
so I have to write an ad, a postcard, whatever. I have to write a campaign to bring new customers in the door. Okay. Well, the first thing I need to know is who's your customer. And so if you're a small business owner, you're not going to hire a $40,000 a year marketing admin and have them be strategic enough to say, okay, I've looked at the marketplace, I've evaluated it, I've looked at the trends, I've looked at competitors and market share, and I've done an analysis. And I think, and also I just know our personal skills. I know who the audience we would most align with, because it's not just which market's the biggest, it's the market you're going to align with, right? You know what I mean? If you're obviously your background, your skills, your personality, you want to pick a market that you as a business owner will align with, because if you're mismatched, that's not going to work. So the business owner has to decide that, which is a big strategic decision. And then you've got to say, well, what are we selling that the marketplace is going to want to buy? Because I always say, if the sales letter is hard to write, the product is flawed. Because if I sit down with you and you're like, well, I need more customers. And I'm like, well, why should they buy from you? And you're looking at me, it's like a forest full of owls. And you're sitting there like, or you're puking out some generic platitude about, well, we do really good service. And that's like, I expect you, that's like a restaurant saying, when you leave our restaurant, you'll be less hungry when you came in. It's like, well, I would hope so. You got to give me something with meat. Give me something.
Differentiation is key. It's all about differentiation.
Well,
but they have to differentiate it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So if you don't have like these and then what is our customer acquisition cost? What is our customer lifetime value? How are we, when we get this customer, how are we going to monetize this customer? And then that's all marketing. See, like, people don't understand, what's your culture? How do you answer the phone? How do you deliver a proposal?
I have a chapter in Over Deliver. It's customer service and fulfillment. And I start with customer service and fulfillment are marketing functions.
Yeah.
It's just, and a lot of people don't get that.
And again, that's why you can't that's why, when I get a business owner who sends their marketing manager to one of my events and says, and then the marketing manager comes back and is excited, and here's what I'm going to do. And they're like, you're not sending that out. You're not spending that money. Yeah. And then I get the call of, well, what do? I'm trying to implement what you're telling me, and I'm getting shut down and not getting funding. And I tell them, leave. You know what? Go find some place, but anyway, Mike, I'm sorry. I was like supposed to ask you,
But is anything we're saying resonating with anybody?
Right, Mike. Like nobody.
It's resonating with Robin and I, but
we're having a time.
No, this is great. We've actually got a lot of people live online with us, and they're hanging in there. They're engaged and everything. We got a totally awesome question from someone, a guy named I say guy, but I don't know. It's named Mel, and they said they're a new marketing manager. But their background is in graphic design. So they're asking, do you have any recommended reading materials for someone in graphic design who's looking to expand their skill set?
I mean,
maybe.
My books are two of many, obviously. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I think that, if they're in graphic design and I think you want to combine that skill with writing. And so because those two skills combined are incredibly valuable to a company or to them as in their career. Because that's why when I talk about one of the characteristics that are in every great copywriter, one of them is I call it, knowledge of direct marketing principles, lifetime value, the 40-40-20 rule and how it applies to three-legged stool, RFM, which is another concept, recency, frequency, monetary value. It's all in my book, but it's all about, having those skills. So that Dan Kennedy talks about, you don't want to do anything for food if you don't have to. You want to be able to be a trusted advisor, a consultant of sorts, even internally in a company. And to do that, you have to widen your skills. So I think for a designer in particular, it's a natural thing to be able to get the writing, because the copywriters that I've always worked with always had a designer that they loved the most. And the designer became very skilled in the copy, and the copywriter started seeing stuff that they never saw before. So having like a partner would be my recommendation, not just books, but to have a partner, find somebody, even if it's not a world-class copywriter, but someone that this designer that asked the question could kind of partner up in an accountability group, even just to like touch base with them on a regular basis, maybe work with them. But I think that, and it's hard to find them. It is. I'm not saying this is like snap your fingers and you'll be able to become, you'll go from graphic designer to becoming a world-class marketer in a heartbeat. But you got to start somewhere. And then as far as books and seminars and webinars, there's so much out there on this topic. So there's no loss of information to be able to do it. I could probably come up with some specifics. In Over Deliver, I have an extensive reading list in the back. As far as books go, and they're in every category. I have direct marketing, copywriting, business. I have woo-woo. I have the Giving Tree and the places you'll go. I'm sure you remember those from your kids, Robin. But they're in my reading list as well. But
let me tell this person something too that's interesting, because as a copywriter, as somebody who understands direct response, I'm glad you mentioned that the copywriter working with a graphic designer, because I'll tell you a funny story. So I used to take a lot more private clients. I don't today, because I don't have the capacity, and quite honestly, I can't scale me. So I don't. Right. But in the beginning, I did. You could hire me and I would take you as a client. Okay. So I had this one client come to me, and it was a big franchise in the IT industry. And they said, we want you to revamp all of our marketing. We were working with this agency. We're not getting anywhere. I mean, it was horrible too. I mean, it was just shitty copy. I mean, like they were putting out offers like respond and get entered to win. Like all you had to do is respond and you could get entered to win. The offer was enter your name to win a trip to Hawaii. Had nothing to do with.
Nothing related to the offer.
Nothing related.
So
they had,
exactly.
So here's all the leads they were getting. They're mailing this shit out. And what they're getting is a bunch of front desk secretaries who are getting the mail. And they're all responding, going, I want to win a trip to Hawaii, and not getting it to the CEO. And so they were getting like leads, but they were all crap. And they were frustrated. So, I said, okay, fine. I'll take you on. I can fix this. And, I looked at the design, and they had an internal graphic designer. And I was looking at their work, and it violates there is a strategy for layout and type, and
absolutely
that you don't want to, that will help enhance the copy and not kill it. But most graphic designers don't know this. And so it's a learned skill, and you will be a higher paid designer if you know how to do design that enhances direct response copywriters, because they know the difference. They will pay you more. So right there, if you can learn that skill, and you got to get with a direct response copywriter.
Yeah, that's the pairing. That's the pairing, right.
So, but anyway, so I told this client, I said, look, I've reviewed all your material, And I'm going to tell you, right, he wanted me to meet with their graphic designer to revamp everything. Right. And I said, okay, I'm just letting you know, this might get contentious because everything that they're designing, I'm going to change. Cause like, they make this big picture and then the copy is like 8-point invisible.
Right.
I'm like,
right.
So I could tell, I'm like going into this, I'm like, I'm going to ruffle some feathers. And I told the client this and they said, no, they'll be great. They're going to love your feedback. They're going to take your feedback. And I said, well, I hope so, but we'll see, because I need to have control over not just the copy, but the design and everything. Because any of these things could undo the piece or the websites. And I was doing all these things, right? I was on the phone with their graphic designer for 9 minutes. And she hung up on me and called the boss and quit. So I think that was the fastest, I've ever, burned somebody. And I was really trying to be nice. Like I wasn't trying to do that, but it was just like, it just,
well, they didn't, I remember when I was working with you on your Done For You newsletter stuff, how, you incorporated the design and like that, you had writers, but you also had designers. I mean, this is a really good question. I'm glad Mike brought it to our attention, because design is in and of itself, it's going to do nothing.
Yeah.
But combined with the right words and because each one can enhance it. It's a 1 + 1 = 3.
Right. Right.
Design and copy.
Yeah.
And it's funny. There's one of the great copywriters from Boardroom is speaking at my mastermind at the end of the month, and we both were talking about his presentation, and I said, why don't we get Rob, who is the big designer at Boardroom? He designed more of our. He was probably responsible for, I don't know, 300 or 400 million pieces of designed, successful direct mail, not in a vacuum, working with these copywriters. So I called him up, or I sent him an email. I said, I know you're not going to come because you're in Colorado. You're invited to come to Connecticut if you want. Only Robin comes to Connecticut. But I said, you might want to come to Connecticut. And he goes, but come on Zoom. When Eric is speaking, we're going to have a conversation just about that topic that was brought up. I think it'll be, and my mastermind of very high-end marketers. You spoke
they
to
are.
them,
Yeah,
very
they are.
high-end group. Yeah. They're going to be like totally jazzed to talk about this topic because there's so much more to talk about because it never ends. The relationship between design and copy is one that goes on forever, and you never know when some little tweak that we talk about will just be an epiphany for someone in the room, and we'll get into a conversation. I don't know where it's going to go, but I know having these two guys talking about it is as good as it gets. So I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
So that I'm a big believer in all of that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a book called Type and Layout, which is, oh shoot, I can't forget the guy. I forget the guy. It's a big, thick. I mean, it's a snooze. The Collier book I can read all day long, but that one is slow going, getting through.
Marty Edelstein, who was the founder of Boardroom, I mentioned him before. This guy is a marketer. He was just basically a voracious reader and learner. One of the things he became obsessed with were fonts.
Yeah,
like he
100%.
became a student of fonts. I couldn't believe it. He actually created Boardroom Bold. He created a font. He didn't invent the font. What he did was he took letters from different fonts and he put them together and made it Boardroom Bold, which was the font that we use on so much of our direct mail, which was very successful. I'm not saying we could have been as successful with just Helvetica Bold and not Boardroom Bold, but he had certain letters that he felt made people vibrate.
Yeah.
And he had such a sense for it. And then he combined that talking to the copywriters we were working with. What do you think of using, my Boardroom Bold on this as opposed to just a different typeface? Yeah. I mean, becoming a student of that, I didn't have the patience for it personally. I mean, but the fact that the president of the company got involved in that just tells you, and a successful company too, tells you the importance of it right there.
Oh yeah, it's important. Design is so important because the people consume, just like you say, you eat with your eyes first. Well, when you get a package in the mail or you get an email or you go to a website, the first thing that you respond to is the design, right? So you're like, or the experience of the piece, right?
Right.
And so a good designer knows what words to emphasize. They know exactly what fonts.
But that's the key. The ones who aren't worried about the words, though, are just making it pretty. I mean, he always used to say, you know, ugly sells. Dan Kennedy used to always say that. You know, it's not enough to be pretty. It just has to get response.
Yeah. Although, but again, I don't think it has to be ugly either. I think there's different approaches. So I think a good designer, you know, if you give if a free report or something like that, or a longer piece that you're creating, you know, that's really important as well. To know. Mike, do you have anything else you want to add? We've been just talking over you the whole time.
Yeah, no, it's great, great stuff. So Brian, I mean, this is a question, or I guess it's more of a statement we get all the time, wrapped in a question, wrapped in your stuff won't work. So people say all the time, nowadays, no one will read more than X, spend more than 30 seconds watching a video, listening to this. Like, what do you say to that, and what's your response?
So, you know, I make a joke about it in that when we went from direct mail to online, it actually, direct mail, you have triple the amount of attention. But the attention is a person sitting over a wastebasket with their third-class mail, dumping it. And that was about, I estimated it, and I did this very scientifically, I'm being sarcastic, and it was 1.8 seconds. Whereas if your hand's on the mouse, it's 0.6 seconds. That's the 3 times as difference between a direct mail package and an email. So I'm saying that because it doesn't matter what you do. If you're not going to be compelling, you're not going to be interesting, everybody's going to leave you. It doesn't matter. But there are ways, you know, and the idea of long copy versus short copy, you know, look, we have shorter attention spans today than ever before, but guaranteed, and Robin will attest to this one, that when you send something that's interesting and you show that you're interested in your prospect, it'll get opened in whatever medium you're marketing in. And, you know, copy can't be too long or too short. It can only be too short. It can only be too boring. And what I do is, and this speaks to like the lumpy mail and all of that. When I was doing some one-on-one consulting clients, and I don't do them either for the obvious reasons that you said, Robin. But when I did one, when I was interested in the client, I wanted to go help them out. I remember every time I went there, we'd be sitting around a table in a boardroom somewhere, and I pick out, and I was trying. It was actually they were really high ticket businesses. It so happened, most of them, meaning that the ultimate price, like an IT contract for 10 or 20,000, some of these people were selling like a $40,000 object of some sort. I don't want to get into what it is because I might give it away. But anyway, so a $20,000 to $40,000 investment. So you got to invest in that person. You're not going to send a double postcard to send, you know, for a $40,000 product. So I go around the table and I pick out the youngest person in the table, and I said, okay, 22-year-old. Do you know what a mailbox is? I mean, I started at this base level. I was obnoxious about it, just to prove a point. Do you know what a mailbox is? By the way, do you check your mail or you just ignore it? And do you have a mailbox that you check on a regular basis? And, you know, so you get into a conversation and, you know, you find out, yes, the 22-year-old checks her mail every day. When she goes to the mailbox, if there's something lumpy in there that's hand addressed, she will open that as opposed to going back into the house and go right back to her email. She'll open that package before that. So I established some basic ground rules of that. Just don't get it in your head that there's one way to do anything. So, I mean, that's the way I answered this question. I mean, I'm not being vague when I say that there are so many ways to skin a cat in terms of getting attention, getting people's, you know, selling to them. But, you know, online in particular, I always say everything is not a revenue event, but everything is a relationship event, because it's inexpensive to communicate with people. Now, if you're going to mail a lumpy package in the mail, that's not so inexpensive anymore. So now you have to target your best customers. I always say, Joe Polish and I did an interview some years ago, And it was all about direct mail, but it was about direct mail on the back end of an online marketing business, like direct mail to your best customers. Like your best customers are already wedded to you. Spend more money on them. Why are you just sending them a double postcard reminding them of something as opposed to sending them an appropriate gift, not a ticket to a sweepstakes
and email them a Starbucks gift card, which we were guilty of until I put the kibosh on that too. But
yeah, but there was one thing that we did with this company. So let's say the product was an in-home sauna, okay, and I started and we had someone spent like $25,000 on a sauna, and so what are you going to sell them next? It's not like a one-off sale. And we started coming up with things. I mean, you don't have to sell them the next product. You can give it away, and it can be like a probe that is a massage probe that costs you $60. Send it to them as a gift, and then say that, but have something in mind. You can't just send it to them and say, because they're not going to buy another sauna. But
yeah, I mean, when I send Mike a massage probe, I definitely have something in mind. Sorry.
I didn't know that was for massage.
Yeah.
But I guess it's using your imagination and always not saying no automatically, and not saying that no one will read this, no one will respond to this. They won't respond to it if it sucks. I guarantee you that.
And let me talk a little bit about, because I have some thoughts on short versus long copy. Okay. And I think when you're just doing top of the funnel to start somebody towards you, shorter's probably better. Right? I see a little ad, I click on it, you've sparked my interest, but then you very quickly, I've got to get you from a headline, which is, to maybe a landing page. And a landing page has got to have a little bit more. Maybe it's an image of a report, or it's another additional headline. There's a couple bullets. So I'm expanding that copy because I'm trying to, and not everybody's going to click through, but let's say the people who click through. From there, I'm going to expand it even more. So as a prospect moves through their buyer's journey, if you want to use that term, right? A buyer, somebody who is interested, wants more information, not less.
Yes.
And the mistake everybody made, and Brian, we get awards if we get 2% response rates, right? So of course, most people are not interested. We know that. We know that if we get a 1% response rate, that's considered very, very good. So that means 99% of the people who received your thing ignored it, threw away, resented you for sending it, never, whatever, right? They're just not interested, right? So I think what people confuse is they think that they ignored it because it was long. And that's not necessarily the case. They ignored it because they weren't interested. Exactly. And the way to get somebody interested is not reducing. Okay, so if I have an uninteresting report and I put it like somehow condense the message on a postcard, that's not going to get someone who's uninterested interested because I reduced it from a 24-page report to a postcard, right? They're not interested, period. And we know 99% of them aren't going to be. But I think short copy makes sense if you're doing the top of the funnel. But as you move a prospect through the buying, like you're saying, like a sauna. So maybe I click on a little ad or something, learn more, and then I go to a landing page. It's, here's a free informative guide on saunas and spas and what to look for. And I go, hey, maybe, or maybe it's a free report on the therapeutic benefits of sauna and massage or hot tubs or whatever the hell you're selling, right? And so I request that information. Now that information comes in, you can't just send me a postcard then. I mean, like I just requested information about this product. I need more. I want to know what it is. What are the benefits? I need answers to frequently asked questions. And if I don't deliver that through direct marketing, whether it comes in the form of a longer video or a longer brochure or if I don't provide that, someone's going to just make a snap decision and not respond. They go, oh, it's not for me. Because what we're doing with longer and longer copy is we are expanding the interest. And eventually someone's going to want to get on a sales call. Like you would never say to a salesperson, when you get a prospect interested on the phone, give them the shortest pitch possible, use as few words as possible because people have shortest attention spans. Like that's not what you're going to say, right? you're trying to engage the person. So I think this concept of people won't read all that, it's misplaced. They're right, but it depends on the context that we're using it.
And it does depend a little bit on the medium. I mean, you go short, the short to long conversation is a good one.
Yeah.
And I do believe I was on Kim Walsh Phillips did a wonderful live cast where she just got a bunch of different people, and you might have been on it. And she got us on for like 10 minutes each and said, how do you use social media in your business? And my response to it, I don't know what I was going to say when I got on, but what I said was, and she quoted me, was that I use social media to get people on my email list, and then I romance them, which is kind of what you're saying.
Which is exactly what you're saying, right?
You basically, and the thing is, that goes back to developing a relationship. And all the long copy, as you said, doesn't have to be a sales pitch. It can be a special report. It could be something that they're interested in.
A video.
You have to gauge the interest with short copy, maybe, but that's about it. And then you go up the funnel or down the wherever you're going with the funnel, and you've got someone who pays you $20,000 for something. That's a completely different person. I mean, we've already established interest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are we going to do to like develop this relationship so much more? And to do that with any kind of like a short flippant email. I mean, that's where you use Federal Express envelopes. That's where you use, direct mail doesn't have to be, a million names sent to a list. Direct mail could be 20 Federal Express envelopes to your top customers with a copy of your new book that you just published and autographed saying, I want to help you. I think I have some ideas, whatever the next leg in the journey is with them. Because, and that could be sending them a book is long copy. So, but the idea of putting it in a context of whatever the medium is, in addition to what the words are, it goes back to the words and the medium and all of that. Yeah. It's still all the three-legged stool. It's still the list, 100%. The message, and the offer.
Yeah. Copy can be too boring, but it really can't be too long. It's that whole story. So anyway, we're like way over time. Mike, do you have any other, thoughts? I want to ask Brian about his boot camps and like people, because actually, Brian, I know you have your mastermind, but I want to know about some of the other things you're doing. But Mike, are there any questions we need to comments?
I think go into the boot camps and the events.
Okay. So yeah, Brian, so like if, I don't know, people are listening, how do they get involved? How do they learn more about your mastermind, your boot camps? I mean, talk to us about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the mastermind that is growing right now is Titans Accelerator, which is, it's a virtual mastermind, no live events. We do 2 to 3 calls a month. It was going to be 1 call a month when I launched it 3 years ago, but then this pandemic happened. You were aware of that, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so I went to weekly calls, and then I was able to over deliver, which is in my DNA. Mm-hmm. And now the renewals are high. I've got 250 members. And it's basically for copywriters, entrepreneurs, marketers, agency owners, some novice marketers and some very seasoned ones. And it's just a wonderful group, very familial. And I get speakers on it. We do hot seats on it. And it's just like it's the best deal in masterminds anywhere. It's like I charge $1,800 for the year. And I think for your kind of people, it would be a wonderful addendum to what they're doing already with you, because it'll round out their marketing and copywriting and bring them back to Toolkit with even more skills and stuff that they could adapt to what they're doing with you.
Yeah. So well, let me just say, like, I went up to your one group up there, you invited me to come up, which I was so grateful for. The thing I think also, guys, for anyone who's listening to this, you want to be in a room of mixed dogs of direct marketing, because there may be somebody in that room that is selling to dentists or attorneys, or they like, Richard was talking about his direct mail campaign to students. Like it was
right, the future doctors, right?
Yeah. I learned like there's so many ideas that'll kick off, because I think another thing we can do is we can get too myopic and too focused on our niche and how things are done around here and way we've done it. And sometimes getting outside of that, well, not sometimes, always, you want to have an eclectic collection of ideas. And so, yeah, I mean, I would totally recommend anybody doing that to, because for $1,800 a year, I mean, holy shit. I mean, do you guys share sales letters do you share actual campaigns?
We do. Once a month at the end of the month, I send a USB with the recordings of the calls for that month, but I also send, and it's on the portal also, digital portal. I do digital and direct mail at the same time, but they get a USB and it's got the calls, it's got a swipe of the month. So I send them a swipe. I send them previous presentations from my mastermind. In fact, I've sent them yours one month, the one you did in Cleveland, which was amazing, the Godfather letter. And so I send them a classic, from a $20,000 mastermind presentation. So they get exposed to a lot of things. It's not a done for you how-to mastermind, but it really is applicable to all businesses. Sure. Now, I also do a boot camp just for breakthrough advertising, and I've done 3 of those. I'm doing another one the end of the year, and that's just to dive deep into the book and create exercises, and that's practical. That's an application of the things that are in the book and applying it to your business. Which
I want to go to that. When is that?
You can come to that. No problem.
I'll send my staff. I'll pay. I'll pay for that. No, I mean, literally, when is it? Where is it?
Don't have dates yet. It's online. That's on Zoom.
Oh, it's going to be online.
That'll
Come
be
on
online.
to Nashville. I'll host you. I'll pay for the hotel. Come on, man. I like in person. I mean,
I like in person too, but it's hard. It's hard to. My main mastermind is that's the $20,000 group. That's a live group, which is at the end of the month. These are things that I offer. I think the best way to get into my world, if anybody is really interested, is to just get on my email list and I'll romance you with what I do. Yeah. And I'm not going to sell you hard. I'm just going to, my business is not a consulting business. It's a direct marketing educational business.
Right.
And so if you go to briankurtz.net, BrianKurtz.net, you opt into my list. I blog every Sunday. I blogged about you, Robin, often, as just one of the top marketers in the world. And so I tell stories. I tell stories in my blog every week. I talk about educational products that I might be selling, not all the time. And then if they want to, one of the best ways to get on my list and into my online family is to buy over deliver, which is, and you go to overdeliverbook.com. There you don't have to spend any money to opt into my list. To buy over deliver will cost you, $25. But what you get at overdeliverbook.com, you're on that site, by the way, Robin, with a testimonial for the book. And it's the bonuses are amazing. I have a swipe file.
Oh yeah.
And Kennedy. I've got like these books about direct mail that are no longer in print. There you go. The swipe. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a whole stack back there, but this.
This stuff is all free on that site. I have Jay Abraham.
Incredible.
Like 18 keynotes. So that for buying over deliver, you get on my list. You get all these bonuses, and that's overdeliverbook.com. But anybody who just wants to get into my world, briankurtz.net, you'll see what it's all about. I don't sell hard. Joe Polish calls me the director of sales prevention.
Yeah, you really do not. I mean, you could sell because you have it's like you're Superman, but you take the bus everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like you just I
know it's embarrassing in a way. When I talk to you, it's embarrassing because you're you're at the top of the game, and I feel like I'm at the top of the game in marketing, but I don't know. It's like I'll tell you how to sell, but I won't do it.
Yeah.
But I'm in a stage of my life too where I'm just teaching.
Yeah, you're not building an empire and stuff like that. Yeah.
Basically,
you've done
I
that
believe
already.
in what Jay Abraham taught me is like if you spend a lifetime doing something, then you have a responsibility to teach what you did. And I've done a lot of stuff. And now I'm teaching, but I'm learning while I'm teaching because if I have, like you come to my mastermind, Robin, you present on how you pivoted from, live to virtual events, as well as anybody I've seen in the business. Now I'm learning how to do that on behalf of my mastermind members. So I'm not teaching anymore. I'm learning And then I've got that now as a new skill that I can teach. I can, borrow from you to teach that to someone else.
Mhm.
And that's what my life's more about these days than selling more books and selling masterminds. But I'm not a nonprofit. I do sell stuff.
Yeah.
And it's enough for me. I'm happy with where I'm at in life, and I just want to share whatever wisdom I have. I want to share it as much as possible, and I want to, give it away. Generosity is, and you and I, we have that in common. That's why we're such good friends. We start with generosity. We start at giving. We start at contributing before we connect with anybody. That's the difference. Instead of just
100%.
networking with people, we contribute to connect. That's the difference.
Yeah.
And
You're right. And, I think the thing too, also, like, people like really direct response marketers, we love sharing the things we figure out. It's like coolish. It's like a hobby. Like, if you get a bunch of golfers together, you get a bunch
why
of
do you want
whatever.
to keep it to yourself? It's like crazy.
Yeah. It's fun to share it because you want to share it with somebody who can really appreciate it, that
and
they
use it maybe.
And use it, make it better. Hey, I took what you did and look what I did with it. I made it into this, and I tweaked it, and it's exciting to talk about. So I hear you.
That's basically my life these days. So it's you have an empire, which is great. I had an empire at Boardroom. I don't have one anymore, but my empire, whatever it is fine.
Yeah. No, I like someday, Brian, I'll follow in your footsteps. Not today, but God willing, not anytime soon. But I think that there's going to be a time when I just want to return to being a freelancer and just the art of it, and the inspiration, a hobbyist, if you will, you know what I mean? Almost more.
Not have to worry about the running of a business but I know how to do it because I did it. So, that's the advantage I have at this point, but I don't want to do it again. I'll tell you that.
Well, you got to do it once.
I don't want 100 employees. I don't want 150 million in revenue. I don't want a payroll that, I don't want that again. I don't want it again.
Yeah.
But I can tell you things that to avoid so that you can do it better.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Which is why you need to sign up at overdeliverbook.com and briankurtz.net and get involved. And we'll post those with this recording. So we'll wrap up. I want to be, I know you're just very generous with your time. And like, folks, I'm telling you, Brian is somebody who, when he actually retired from Boardroom and was available, I hired him immediately, said, hey, come for a day of consulting. I still remember that day. I love being around you.
I had such a good time. And then you built on it because Robin then said, let's get all of our friends from like the Kennedy plan, basically.
We were the Kennedy
PhD Kennedy people.
Yeah.
And she said, you'll come down for a day, and then the next day we'll get them all into my office, into Robin's office. They all came down, and that triggered like the Wizards group, which Robin organized, which was an impromptu mastermind, which we all gave to St. Jude's to be there, basically, and in Robin's name. And just think about, and then the ideas that came out of that, and just for me coming down for a day, just triggered all of that. But that's the way you work, Robin. You build on it, and you know that surrounding yourself with the best and the brightest makes you better and brighter. And I'm just so glad we're friends. You're just a whiz. That blog post I wrote about you was all about, I got to tell it quickly. So Robin got up at a GKIC event. She sold, and it was not even a product yet. It was like, she was talking about sponsorships.
Yeah.
And she did it. And she goes, I don't even have a product yet, but I'm going to go up and talk about what I did, and we'll see if people will buy it. Like, I'll create a product. And she sold more than anybody at the event. And the guy sitting next to me says to me, he was almost like pissed off. Like, how is she doing that? And, it's like, he was like pissed off that she's selling more than anybody here. And I know how to do this, and I didn't do that, and all this other shit. Well, I wrote a blog post, a lengthy blog post about, that guy was just being envious when he should be grateful. What he should have said to me is like, Robin, and can I meet her after this event? Would she spend time with me if you recommended it? He didn't do that. but you would have done it if I asked you.
Yeah,
And
yeah, of
I
course.
said,
Yeah.
and I was saying like, man, I'm just grateful that I know Robin, because if I ever want to do sponsorships in an event, I know where I'm going, and she's going to basically lay it out for me. Why do I have to be envious? Envy is the killer. It's the
It
killer
is.
emotion.
Yeah.
It'll kill you every time. Whenever you're feeling envious of somebody, immediately go to gratefulness. So to end this, it's a good place to end it, because I am so grateful to have you as a friend, as a mentor, as someone I look up to, someone who's my peer and I also look up to. It's just and those relationships run in our lives in business all over the place.
Yeah.
But it's because of who we are. Because
Mhm.
we start with generosity, we give before we get. And when you do that, life is just fantastic.
Yeah, no, you do like 100%. I feel the same way. Your book title is exactly you, over deliver, right? I mean, you over deliver so much value. You're so giving. You're genuine. You're not full of shit. I mean, you're not like one of those internet marketers, standing in front of the rented Bentley and, running out in front of a private jet that's not yours to get a quick picture before the police come grab you and take you off the road, so you're like the real deal. And that's
So
what
are
I
you.
think that's why we get on really well, because, you are super generous, but you're just, you're really, I mean, yeah, we called it the wizard circle because of that reason, because there were so many of us we felt like are just really wizards when it comes to marketing. And we agree marketing is everything. It really, in business, in our lives, we stand on that. So yeah, no, I appreciate you being there. Mike's a wizard too. I know he doesn't get a chance to talk much.
Yeah, no, Mike is a wizard. I mean, I should have acknowledged him before. He's a Kennedy PhD.
Yeah, no, I got him from Kennedy, and
I
Mike's
know.
like, yeah, he's we're just talking. We just had a 2-day event, Mike, and I don't know if you were in the room when I said it or not, but I mean it, whether it was standing there or not. But I said, a lot of these people, like when you're running a business, you got to hire people for marketing. Kennedy always said 2 things he would never delegate would be the checkbook and the marketing, right? And I don't know that I agree with him 100% on that, because definitely I trust Mike. Like I said to people, I said, Mike's one of those people I can say, go ahead and take care of it. And I can turn my back and not check. And I know it'll be done. It'll be done well. That sort of thing. So
I had Kennedy on my Titans Accelerator mastermind and for his new book. And he said, he clearly delegates anything to do with the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But for him, that's a good idea. So, I mean, he delegates his facts too. So that's good too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Wizards group was just such a wonderful assembly of, and again, I'm not making fun of Dan. Dan, everything leads to Dan,
Mm-hmm.
and he's created sort of like a coaching tree in college football. He's got a tree of amazing marketers that basically point to him as their first entry into marketing.
100%.
That's the thing that I don't have as many as he does. I don't envy it. I marvel at it. And when I get one, like someone says that I said before, I'm their mentor, I get more joy out of that than almost anything in life. Because that means you've accomplished something at a whole different level, that a new person is going out into the marketplace with your direction and going to put their own stamp on it and be better. That I don't think it gets better than that. It really doesn't, for me anyway.
Your legacy lives on for sure. All right. Well, I'm down to my last little sip. So I want to just say, thank you so much, Brian. Thank you, everybody. Mike, appreciate you guys, and cheers. There's another great minds drink alike. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Take care. All right.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks,
Bye
Mike.
now.